if we want to sort this one out, I guess if you feel this measure doesn't go far enough and that you want it to go back to 2014 or something closer, then you should vote against the recommendations. Okay? We're now, no further questions, but I'm opening it up for comments if people want to make comments.
Yeah, I'd already had my name here.
Yep, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr Mayor, and I would have really appreciated the opportunity to introduce this as the chair of the committee that does bring this to you and reports to the governing body, and I think we might have been able to take away a lot of the confusion if I'd been able to do that in the first place. But you're new, so we'll let you off.
That's very condescending of you, Councillor. Thank you.
I know,
you are capable of taking a call, and you have the first call, and please use the opportunity now.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is that there is a lot of confusion around this, and I want to just speak to a few of the comments that have been made. First of all, as the title says, this is about indoor domestic fires. It's not about our general air quality at all. And because of the huge contention in the last term and concern, it was thought wiser to pull back and look at another approach. Because before it even got out, actually formally to the public, there was a huge outcry. And I think that it has been dealt with in a separate way. We've pulled it out separately. And I think that to speak to Councillor Wayne Walker and Councillor Darby's concerns is, this is going out for public consultation. So if people are very unhappy with their approach, this is their opportunity to bring it to us. And I'm sure people like the Auckland Regional Public Health Service and a lot of agencies who are dealing with the effects of the very things that Councillor Darby says will be coming to us. The local boards, it's a very good opportunity for local boards, and it's worked in other bylaw hearings. Local boards come individually and they make their case, and they have a lot of staff support to do that, unlike the general public. So they actually do have much more advantage than the public, Councillor Simpson, huge more advantage. They get people to, so I think it's really, they do get involved, and often their thoughts are really highly valued. They are highly valued by the panel. I think also Councillor Fletcher, I understand your concerns because you do have a lot of open fires in your area, but we can't limit the scope any more than it is, because we do need to let people bring whatever opinion they want to bring, and I think that's really valid because it's public consultation. And as Councillor Close says, there will be a natural attrition for these fires, and we've got national standards for burners, and over time these fires open fires will decrease, the old burners will be replaced with new, and the effects of those emissions over time will be less on our environment. But until we have that time, because we're very clear that the general public really hated that idea that we might make them decommission, is that we've got to control the types of matter that is burned in these fires, because it's not okay to put rubbish on there, like your plastic rubbish bags and things like that. That is really toxic, as Councillor Darby says. So I think we've got to make a start. This is a starter for 10. This is not the final. This is a draft. So I think we can't really it's not a lot of point in changing a lot of it now, because we'll hear from the public and all the government agencies, the public health will hear it. That will be the chance for us to then take on board what they say. The panel will come back to us, recommend it, and then we can change it then if we want to. So I think that's the opportunity. This is just to put it out to public. This is not to actually do it ourselves. This is for the public to help us decide. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was a member of the I am a member of the Regulatory Committee and raised a number of these points, and I've restated some of those questions today. The problem definition in the statement of proposal 2.3.1 introduces the issue of air qualities. I mean, the problem is in explaining the rationale for the need for an intervention, it introduces the issue of air quality. Hence, it makes it a difficult debate when really this should be about solely about the appropriate application of a regulation in relation to domestic wood burners. But we go further than that because of the problem definition. And I read the problem definition. The risk of increased pollution is greatest in winter when smoke from Auckland's indoor domestic fire increases. The reason that fires increase in winter is because it's cold. And I want my elderly constituents to stay warm in winter. And I celebrate them staying warm in winter. I acknowledge that there could very well be an issue with respect to air quality that results from the use of domestic wood burners. That's why I think that the national standard is a useful document. And I take the point expressed by Councillor Wayne Walker and Councillor Darby around, but I struggle with some of these public health statements about air quality contributing to mortality. I have never seen a list of the deceased that is appended to such statements, and that's something that I think undermines the quality of those statements when that information simply doesn't exist. However, this is a proposal for public consultation, Your Worship, and I am pleased that Councillor Quacks has made himself available to chair the hearings or to contribute to the hearings. I wish him well. I go back to the point that I was seeking to allude to about whether we have the tools in place to address a problem that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to extend out to include a bylaw. I think that is a point that will be very interesting when we come through to the submissions as to what the community thinks. You know, Your Worship, as Helen Clark discovered in 2008, New Zealanders like a nice hot shower with good water pressure. And I think in winter, Aucklanders want to stay warm. And if they want to stay warm, and this is an option for them, then they will light a fire, warm, and I hope they do, because I think that is the most immediate need here, the need for people to be warm and dry in their homes, and the domestic wood burner has always been part of that for many people. But so I'm comfortable to take this statement of proposal, although I think it's a flawed statement of proposal around some of the use of the language, and the proposed bylaw out for public consultation, and I look forward to people contributing their views and submissions, and I look forward to the report back.
Keep the home fires burning.
But well, keep the home fires burning is a very reasonable way to conclude.
Okay. We've had two speakers in favour of the recommendations. There are obviously people who feel that the recommendations are inadequate, that they need to go much further. So I'm happy to take any further comment, otherwise we'll simply put it to the vote. Councillor Watson.
Not so much a statement for or against your Worship, and more one of neutrality. My outstanding recollection of this process back in 2014 was not that there wasn't a problem. There was a problem both ways in terms of air quality and in terms of people needing their present heating systems to keep warm. What was lacking when we were compared to Christchurch Council was the encouragement given, financial encouragement largely given for people to convert to clean burning and updating, and they had a series of packages that actually encouraged people to do that voluntarily. We did not have that suite available to us, and hence I think the reservation then amongst some of us on the committee that did see the problem, but could see a greater problem if people were forced to convert and had the money to upgrade, and that was where it fell.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I move that the motion now be put.
We've had people that have spoken for it or neutral, but not people who have spoken against it. And the normal course under standing orders is to give people a chance, if they wish, to speak against. So,
Point of order. I understood that both Councillor Wayne Walker and councillor Darby.
They were questions, as I understand
They
it. That
were
was a question
questions?
session.
Didn't sound like questions to me.
Yeah,
I'll
well,
take your-
that's
thank
true
you.
of a lot
I
of
thought
councillor
mine was a
statements, Mr Quacks, including some of your own. I want to see if there's any other person that wants to speak. I'm happy to take the vote now, but I'm not wanting to exclude anybody that wants to speak against the motion. Okay, I have no...
What about a neutral?
Oh,
What about a neutral?
we'll take councillor Clow and then we'll put it to a vote.
I just think this is a good compromise. I understand where councillor Darby and Walker are coming from, and I agree. Solution for open fires, it's a phased phase out of them. They will be gone. And we just got to remember one other thing is, and councillor Newman did allude to it with his reference to the water pressure policy that the Labor Party put out. We don't want to be seen to be 2PC. We are getting it in the neck anyway with low favourability. If we seem to be mucking around and being 2PC, it is not the way to go. That's all I'll say.
Thank you very much, councillor. So, I mean, there are two potential courses forward, and we'll take the vote now. And if you feel strongly that this is an inadequate step, albeit a step in the right direction, you have the option of voting against it, or alternatively we can use the process of consultation to see if there is a public mood to actually tighten those standards. Anyway, we've got the resolutions in front of us. They've been moved and seconded. I'll put the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. To the contrary, no?
No.
Carried. Okay. Thank you very much for that. It was a longer debate than I might have anticipated. We now come back to the